Hello, friends, and welcome into NFL Daily. I am your host, Tom Downey. Today, we're talking about David Johnson. Now, perhaps you saw I'll call it reports that the Cardinals were going to move on from David Johnson. They were expected to. That's a little bit of fake news, kind of got out of control. Here's what happened before we dive in to the future of David Johnson. ESPN made their bold prediction that Cardinals would move on from David Johnson. That kind of got morphed into expected to. It's really not the case, and it's certainly not the case yet, but it does make some sense. David Johnson is expensive. The Arizona Cardinals want to bring back the better running back right now in Kenyon Drake, as weird as that might actually sound at the current moment. And also, they'd like to find a way to take him. Now, we'll get into the contract side of it in a second, but for Arizona, Kenyon Drake's a free agent. He played really well for them. He just fit that scheme to a T. David Johnson was coming off an injury last year. He just never really looked right. The ground game of David Johnson was not that effective. He looked sluggish to me. Look at the production right there. 3.7 yards per carry, a full yard and a half less than Kenyon Drake. But he does still bring you value in the receiving game. I don't want to make it sound like I think David Johnson is completely washed up. I don't think that's the case. He's still fairly young, injuries notwithstanding. He's had success in the NFL. The problem is David Johnson's expensive. $13 million per year, and as we are about to dive into here, the Cardinals can't cut him. That's why if you see reports saying Arizona is going to release David Johnson, it doesn't make sense. He carries next year, and we'll show the top 5 on that later on in the show, $14.16 million cap hit. That is his cap hit in the 2020 season. If the Cardinals were to release David Johnson, it's actually a $16.2 million in dead money, meaning it would cost the Cardinals an extra $2.04 million, we'll just call it $2 million, if they were to cut him. In the end, it doesn't make sense for the Cardinals to release David Johnson. Why pay a player more to not be on your roster? However, they can save over $8 million if they can find a trade partner, as we'll break down in a second. That's a little bit easier said than done. So before we dive into my top 5 destinations for David Johnson, I want to hear from you guys. Where do you think David Johnson will play in the 2020 season? Arizona remains a very strong and very plausible outcome. Let me know what you guys think. Those of you watching on YouTube, you might get it with an ad break here. If you do, scroll on down. I've made this question the pinned comment. On now to number 5. I love the idea of David Johnson in Kansas City. His passing game skills fit really well with the Chiefs. I think he would have a bit of a bounce back year. Look, Mahomes is your quarterback. You're set there. You've got Damian Williams. That's fine. But imagine if you could bring in David Johnson. He can have a bounce back season. Fun idea. The practicality of it, not quite that realistic, even though it does make some sense. Money's going to be an issue for KC. You got to pay Mahomes. You got to pay Chris Jones. You're not going to run out of money. You still have some available, but you have to be smart with it. Is paying David Johnson so much a smart move? I mean, you're going to be paying him about $11 million. Any team that takes on his contract, that's a lot of money. And the Chiefs, by the way, just proved they don't need an expensive back. Damian Williams had himself a great game. He's got a club option for like $2.5 million. They'll just pick that one right on up. Look, I know LaShawn McCoy's a free agent. I know Spencer Ware is a free agent. It's a fun idea, but I don't think it makes a ton of sense for the Chiefs just because of the money side of it. Look at the cap hit in 2020. Right now for Arizona, David Johnson's going to be the 3rd highest cap hit at over $14 million. And even if with a trade, the new team that takes David Johnson on, it's still going to be roughly $11 million. So if you trade for David Johnson and you can't get him to totally restructure his deal, which is a possibility, I guess, but I'm not convinced it's all that likely right now, so we're operating on the assumption that it's not. The cap hit becomes $11 million. That's rough, even for a player with the previous success of David Johnson. So I ask you guys this. I know we have a lot of Chiefs fans that watch the show. Do they even need ARB, or should they just sling it around the entire time? Let me know what you guys think. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Yeah, they could probably use one more back. Maybe not maybe you don't need to spend a high pick on it, though, if you're KC. Now, it is almost Valentine's Day, so fellas, pay attention. You are running out of time if you have not already gotten your wife, your girlfriend, your mother a gift this year. Head over to chatsports.com/flowers. That is chatsports.com/flowers. That link will save you 15% off everything on Pro Flowers. That is 15% off, not just the flowers, the roses, whatever, also the gift baskets as well. Check the comments, check the description as well. I've got that chatsports.com/flowers link in there. So all you got to do is click that button and go start shopping. Number 4 on our list, the Houston Texans. They have proven before, Duke Johnson especially, they are willing to make deals for running backs. And on top of that, 2 of their top options, when healthy I should say, are set to be free agents. But much like the Chiefs, Houston's kind of in an awkward spot. Can they afford to pay David Johnson $11 million? You got to find a way to bring back Tunsil on a long-term deal. Deshaun Watson going to be due for a big contract as well. You're not going to spend a premium draft pick. We'll dive into the trade value here in just a little bit. But Carlos Hyde's a free agent. Lamar Miller's a free agent. I kind of like the idea of David Johnson in that Texans offense with Watson and with DeAndre Hopkins and even complimenting Duke Johnson, because at this point, you're probably not going to bring on David Johnson and assume he alone can be your number 1 back. But Houston's been aggressive before. Maybe Bill O'Brien wants to go out and add another big-name player. Now, we will keep you updated on everything around the NFL this offseason. That's news, that's rumors, that's more of these possible trade destinations. Oh, and the draft, of course. That's also coming up here on the Chat Sports channel. So hit that big red button and subscribe today. I am intrigued by this option. It is the Buffalo Bills. Maybe not one you immediately jump to because they got a really good back already in Devin Singletary. Had himself a nice year. But you do need a partner for him. I think Singletary will thrive in a timeshare, as many backs do these days. I think Johnson could fit that mold pretty well. He has passing game ability, and I think for the Bills, they want that. And oh, by the way, they can afford this too. They have the 3rd most cap space in the NFL. Frank Gore's an aging free agent. That leaves Devin Singletary and TJ Yeldon set to be on the roster next year. Now, they could sure draft someone else, as any player on this list could, but I am intrigued by the idea of you have a good back in Singletary, why not take a gamble on David Johnson? Worst case scenario, you paid a couple million and it didn't work out for you, and then you could move on after this year. And you probably don't have to give up a premium draft pick either. Now, Singletary right now, as weird as this might sound, is a better player than David Johnson. But Johnson does still bring you quite a bit in the passing game. I think that duo could be great for Josh Allen. Now, we will get into some trade details that I've cooked up here on the chats on NFL Daily. But let me know what you think David Johnson is worth in a trade. 2 years ago, probably would have been a pretty nice amount. These days, with his contract, not that great. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Now, the NFL season, it's not going on right now. It's all quiet. But you can still watch and bet on the XFL with BetDSI. They're going to give you a 120% deposit bonus. It's chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code NFL120. That is chatsports.com/bet. Promo code NFL120. Bet on the XFL and then watch it. It's a fun little combo right there. And, of course, the NBA. And, heck, it's almost March Madness as well. Number 2, the Miami Dolphins. If you're shopping an expensive player, Miami's got to be on your list. And it makes a lot of sense for Miami, too, because they have roughly 0 good running backs on this roster. David Johnson would come in, and in a spot where not very many, this would be the case, but in Miami it would be. He'd be the best back on the roster, I'd say pretty easily. Kalen Ballage, bad. Patrick Laird, bad. Myles Gaskin, also bad. Everybody on this roster is bad. Look at what they did. Not including Kenyon Drake last year at the running back. Was the O-line great? No, it was not. They averaged less than 3 yards per carry. 230 carries, 659 yards. And they had a couple more touchdowns. That's just the nature of, frankly, a little bit more luck involved. And they had to run the ball more on the goal line than Arizona's spread aerial attack did. The Miami backfield was hot trash this year. And you've got all kinds of money to play around with. And if no one wants David Johnson, Miami could be in a unique situation to do in a Aqib Talib type trade. So just bear with me on this. Let me explain, because I know it's very different than the NFL's used to. What if the Cardinals were to basically salary dump David Johnson on Miami? Miami gets a back. They trade a 6th-round pick from New England, and the Cardinals get a 7th-round pick from KC. I know that's a weird discussion to have, and it's a very different mindset to go about. But I think for Miami and Arizona, Aqib Talib went for a 5th-round pick. This is less than that. Arizona gets a pick at the back of the 7th round, so they got something back, plus cap space. If you're Miami, maybe you explore this. Maybe the biggest red flag here is that I don't know if Arizona wants to give up a draft pick just to save $8 million in cap space. At number 1, it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one, for me, I think it's the obvious and the logical landing spot if the Cardinals can find a trade partner for David Johnson, because Bruce Arians is the Bucs head coach. Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones split time as he's starting running backs last year. Barber's going to be a free agent. I don't know if the team really trusts Ronald Jones. And if there's one coach that I think can get David Johnson back to form, wouldn't it be the Arizona Cardinals? And if you lose Barber in free agency or don't bring him back, that leaves Ronald Jones and a whole lot of question marks beyond that in terms of depth. And Jones hasn't been the guy I thought he was going to be coming out of USC. So if you're the Bucs, I think you do have interest in David Johnson. Now, make no mistake, the contract is an issue, and that's why it's not going to be much in exchange, as we'll get to. But look at what David Johnson did in 2016, and even early in 2015, and then the injury, of course, set in 2017. Under Arians, David Johnson, that's the reason he got paid, right? Like, that's why he got that extension from the Arizona Cardinals. So it is tricky to figure out value here. Here's what I put together. Because you're going to have to pay David Johnson $11 million, you're not going to have to pay a premium draft pick. So a 6th-round pick goes to Arizona. The Bucs get David Johnson. Let me know in the comments who says no to that one. I know it's selling low on David Johnson, but frankly, getting that off the books, that's the biggest incentive for Arizona to move on from DJ, especially if that $8 million you save via trade, you can then give to and help re-sign Kenny Drake or invest elsewhere in your roster. So we'll recap here quickly my top 5 David Johnson trade destinations. The Bucs at number 1, Miami at number 2, then I think kind of a bit of a drop-off to number 3, the Bills, and then another drop-off, number 4, Houston, and number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs.